Hello, Karoth crew. Karothkin back here, trying a format that everyone's seen before, but I'm doing it myself to hope I can make more frequent content for all of you. I know people have been enjoying my wacky little stories lately that I've been telling with my wife, and I'm hoping that I can tell you all a fun story today that I've been inspired to make because of a concept my brother-in-law and I were playing with. So with that being said, let's get into the story. Arthur Conroy is a fast food worker in Alabama. He doesn't have a good life. He just struggles to get by with his apartment and working class Joe like everyone else. He had bad luck happen to him in early 2024, where his father ended up passing away. The upside, if you call it that, is the fact that he had a very hefty life insurance policy for helping out Arthur, so he could hopefully get something better. Problem is, the taxman wants a lot of that money back. So Arthur didn't really feel he could touch it and mess with it until after April. So Arthur ended up moving on with his life. Something happened on February 16th, 2024 that made a light bulb go off in his head. He thought to himself, maybe he could come up with a business model that no one's ever seen before. Even to this day in Alabama, no one's doing this business model. That he could pull something off to keep all the money for himself. So what he did is he ended up going to all of the IVF clinics, which is the, fertility clinics for people that have a hard time getting babies. And he ended up buying out all of the to be disposed of embryos that the IVF clinics didn't know what they were going to do with anymore. So he ended up taking them in, and he got all the paperwork written up so he would be the parent, if there were to be a parent, from any of these embryos that he acquired. So he continued doing his fast food work, doing his job, and eventually April came by and tax season happened. And he filed for taxes. His plan worked without a hitch. He was able to write off over $500,000 in income tax earnings because he was able to prove he had 500 dependents in the tax codes because all the embryos are now considered children. So all of his hard work paid off in spades. He finally had enough money to move his life forward. But instead of doing what he was originally going to do, of blowing all of his money on a house and all these other things that we need, but it's not as important as finding a way to make a good business, Arthur ends up buying a warehouse, filling it with freezers, and buying up embryos at all the other IVF fertility clinics. So then the other fertility clinics could finally do their job again, because now parents had the opportunity, instead of disposing the embryos in Alabama, which is illegal because that is now considered killing a child, they could now give it to Arthur. And Arthur would then have the paperwork. He would have everything set so he could adopt out these embryos. So he ended up reaching out to all these other people that wanted large tax write-offs, that wanted ways to make sure they could keep their money to themselves. Arthur blew up with this idea. He was able to reach out to almost everyone in Alabama. But the problem is West Baptist Church. See, the thing is, the West Baptist Church was over the moon with the idea that IVF couldn't happen anymore in Alabama, because the West Baptist Church has this strong belief that there's only one way a man and a woman can have a baby together. And IVF was not that way. So he had people picketing out in front of his business every single day, insisting that they stop doing IVF, and making sure that Arthur stops doing IVF, make sure that they restrict it so no one can do it anymore. Arthur had no reason to oblige. Arthur continued doing his business model regardless of them. Cease and desist orders be damned. Arthur had a great thing going for him. And he was charging cheap, especially in the beginning. Some people were able to adopt a child for just $100. And you don't even need to take care of the child. It's all taken care of in the one simple $100 fee. So then that way, anyone that wants to can write off $10,000 for the next 20 years. And finally, tax day 2025 came by. Arthur was able to save every citizen in Alabama from needing to pay taxes that year. Over $34 billion in tax revenue that the government was expecting to receive, gone. They had no choice but to go back to the original IRS books and rewrite it so embryos were not considered children. I'm not a tax professional. All of this is a story. That's the end of the story. That's it. That's the whole thing. Don't do this unless you're a tax professional and you write in the comments that you're doing this or you're trying this year in Alabama. That's great. I'm not a tax professional. Don't take my advice. I can't stress that enough. If you like the story that I told, regardless of that, please like and subscribe. If you like the other content, if you like this story, maybe you'll like a bunch of my other stories. I'm working on a whole bunch of shorts with my wife, and I'm working on a whole bunch of other fun stories in the same universe. All of that is a little bit more fantasy-esque than this, but it's all fun content that I am telling. So if any of this story appeals to you, check it out.